Tony will be having leveling up in classic RPGs the easy way, and then we're going to have teach us kids to program. But Tony's going to do one on the disc too. Thanks, Tony.
What an action-packed day this has been. Still going on. The session name is Theory and Design. However, you're going to see the theory and the design, how the disc 2 goes together. Because everybody's always seen my 3.5-inch disc drive session where I take them apart, show you how to clean it up, put it back together. And they always ask for 5 1/4, so I figured, I said last year, I said, okay, I've got to do the 5 1/4 final. And well, we're going to start with, okay, every drive has a case, we don't need that right now. Put that aside. But when we're done here, all that is going to work.
Cleaning the piece on the floor.
Because I've got screws, rails, heads, and the drive door, and the motor, the stepper motor. We're going to put this together and we're going to align it with itself in one working floppy disk. It's probably not going to be as perfect as NASA, however, with the way this is set up, the tolerances here, I don't think it has to. It just has to be close enough. Because every one of these things is probably slightly different. So I'm going to kind of talk about what I'm doing as I go through it. If you have any questions, I'll see if I can answer them as I go. We've got about 45 minutes, and I want to actually try to get this most of the way done, but we will go through it. I'm going to explain what I'm doing, and I'm also going to do a little bit of cleaning and stuff at the same time while I do it. And like the 3.5-inch drives, one of the things that gums up the works, although the 5 1/4-inch drives were not as bad, because they're outside the computer. They're not sucking in everything. They don't generate a lot of heat, so they don't draw a lot of dust in. So it really wasn't a problem. But I have seen some of these fairly jammed up, full of dust in the garage. And just like everything else, they can always use a good clean out. One of the most interesting things that it's hard to diagnose, because unless you take the belt off, you don't know, is see the bottom spinning. I've actually seen this bearing get gummed up enough to where it actually drags the motor. This one actually works quite well, so I won't mess with it. But if you have to do this, you have to get 2 sets of vice grips with pads in them and actually grab this flywheel down below and here and counter rotate them until the thing slides off. But it's just pressed on there really hard. If you do that, then you can see the bearing. And I like silicone spray in small amounts because I shoot that right in there and then work it, get it going, and then wipe it off. A lot of the 3.5-inch drives have all kinds of lithium grease and similar on it. The best thing you can do for all that is get all of it out of there. Leave a nice coat, liquid rinse your silicone on there. It works a lot better than all that crud in there. So, with that, let's figure that, we'll put the I'm going to put the motor back on loosely in place. I wish I had a camera up here so that you could see, but I'll leave the parts out afterwards. There is a little section in the corner of this, if you ever need to, for doing the adjustment, alignment, that is set up to take a flat blade of a screwdriver, put it in, and you can minutely move the motor in one direction or the other. You can rotate it. The idea here is to not have any pieces left when we're done, right? nuts back in the top. And we're having small fingers. Always into this. For purposes of starting, I'm just putting the stepper motor in about the center. There's an oval area, 2 screws holding it down. I'm just centering the motor roughly in the center of the area between the screws. And I will slightly, there we go. These are the rails that the head goes back and forth on. And this is the kind of stuff that gets a coating of gunk over the years on it. The way to deal with that is twofold. Something like an electronic cleaner or defluxer even, whatnot, that you can put on there, spray that, and this will get anything off of it. This is even giving me a little resistance coming out of there, so I can tell it's got a little buildup on it. They looked clean, didn't they? But you're talking about areas so thin that a human hair would actually jam this up. It was trying to go through there. Slide that back in. Actually does move nicely now. So to finish that off, I'm going to take silicone spray. Put that on there. So now that this head is perfectly accessible, it's very easy to get at. Some people are going to probably cringe with all these special head cleaning discs and special methods and whatever. How I simply do this is and got to figure the surface of this head has microscopic sandpaper rotating around it at 300 RPM for probably 30 years now. It hasn't screwed it up yet. I don't think I'm going to do anything to it. I can see perfect shine and a very thin white line down the middle between the head. That's what I want to see. It's not uncommon to take one disc out of your package, out of your old box, and put it in there, and the head is instantly gunked out. So you just have to, if I'm working on archiving stuff and going through old discs, I don't even put the lid back on, I just keep it off, because you're probably going to have to clean it every single time you stick one in. Okay. The stepper motor is on. The next thing is it's kind of like a jack screw. The head actually has a little tab on it. This is one of these things that don't bend it, don't mess with it, don't pull on it. It's tensioned, but if you do, it can be fixed. And there's a little spiral in here. So you wonder how the disc head gets from one end to the other. It simply rides in the spiral, and gets pulled back and forth. So when you hear the disc 2 recalibrating when you turn it, when it boots up, it's because it knows to go, basically the command you give it is, you go the full length and a little extra. So if you start at one end, you don't hear very much clicking at the other end, but if you start at track 0, it clicks a little bit more. Because you're basically assuming it has to be there by now, versus bothering to actually check it. And this is another piece that's just simply pressed on. So this has to go down to where it's making noise like that now. It's a little too much. So if it's too much, how you can fix that is loosen this a bit. This has some play in it. So we put something on top of this shaft, push that down. There's a little extra space in there. It all the way to the back of the room. All right. Now the head has 2 rails that goes back and forth on. And there's clips on the drive. Were cleaning any of this as you were going, the biggest areas would be the surface of this, the round plate that I put down, the 2 linear rods, and everything else can just get wiped down. Head is installed, and that actually moves quite smoothly. And when you turn this disc, the head will eventually find the track and go back and forth. I actually don't like that. I want to loosen that up a little more. incident, a little side diversion here while I'm thinking about it. One of the very common things that goes wrong with these is, besides the head getting dirty, very simple design, 4 ICs. The one in the middle here is 74 LS 125. Tends to pop a lot, and a sign that it happened is when you turn the drive on, you hear a nice big something hit the top. See the brown spot? Yeah. This one went off at one point in its life. And then you see the smoke coming out the front, and it's too late. You can't capture it, you can't put it back.
It's from plugging in the connector incorrectly.
Somebody plugs it in, not always, but if you do it incorrectly, usually you know about it right away. But this is, out of surprise, you might just turn it on and it just might happen. Now
I think I still have mine that has a crater in the top of the chip.
yeah,
You know,
it
that
just
piece
blows
of
out.
plastic just
Looks
popped right at
looks
the
like-
top.
Looks like the crater in the,
Yeah.
okay, so the head wire, the head installed back in there, the read-write head wire needs to have slack in it so that this can freely move without it getting caught up, or getting caught in it. And there are some clips under here. This will go kind of in and under. That's out of the way. Next thing being, this is the hub aligner. When you close the door, this moves all around in there. When you close the door down, it actually will grab and center that. So it's important that a lot of this be relatively centered itself, so that everything, so it's not trying to push a disc to the side. This will actually also line up to the inside of this cup here. How we'll do that is just going to set it on there. The main intention of this kind of drastic demo here is to show you the stuff is pretty hardily built. It can take a lot of handling. Dare I say, a lot of abuse. So don't be afraid to get in there and clean up something, put it back together. Don't worry about it. 74 LS 125. Okay, so now that I've got this loosely screwed on, I'm just going to push it down and then tighten the back here one last time. I'm going to figure that that's probably pretty close to center. I think it's going to go. Faceplate LED has a retainer ring. It's going to go back around that. And that's going to go into the hole, and the ring comes forward. And the door simply slides in. Four screws into the side here.
Oh.
Ah, get the wire out of the way. And I have something else misaligned in here, fix that. And before I the 3.5-inch drive is more fun. But it also usually needs to be cleaned out, adjusted a lot more often than this. Some of these things you don't have to touch for years.
So what did you just have to readjust?
The door assembly, the centering hub was caught.
Oh, okay.
I just moved everything over again. Okay. One thing I didn't mess with on here is I didn't have a hex key. The right protect switch is right next to the side here. And if you simply want to have a drive that never bothers to check, this also has one screw that's static, that will not move, and one that has a slot. Loosen the one that has a slot, just push the switch down, then it'll never bother to check, because it can't. Little side bit of information while we're on this. As you know, the ROM 3 and the 2C Plus, and I believe the LC card, have a little bit of a different issue with compatibility in disk drives. The Platinum drive will work across everything, but the beige Unidisc and Duo disk drives do not work in many circumstances on a ROM 3 or the 2C Plus or the LC card. The Disc 2 does. Since Apple never sold the Disc 2 with a 19 pin on it, it is not listed as a compatible device, because they sold this with 20 pins. The reason why is the way this is designed, the write protect return line, the ground line for the write protect is run through phase 1 on the stepper motor. I believe so that you can't write at the same time, or you can't be doing something, whereas most of the clone drives use the ground to return it. And since Apple did it the right way with their drive, incidentally they didn't do it the right way with the Unidisc. That's why it doesn't work. If you wire that up differently in any drive that doesn't work on a ROM 3 or a 2C Plus, that fixes the problem. Put a 19-pin cable on one of these, this works also, because it's done right. Lastly, we have the important part. We wouldn't get anywhere without the belt, right? So I'm not going to bother putting the thing on there. So the belt goes, the belt isn't really tight, it's not really loose, it's kind of just there. And to put that on, put it around the motor, from the small spindle, put a finger here. Just bring it around, and it'll self-center.
You still get centers.
These belts, if you measure it out, you'll probably still get them. However, I'm going to tell you this, that my entire time of ever messing with these, I've never found a bad belt. It's always been something else. Therefore, there's probably way more many disk drives out there that have worse problems that you can get a belt from. A little bit of side silliness. It was a Duo disc. We used to offer a mail-in exchange. We'd just send in whatever drive and we'd send it out. We swap it for a price. Unless you wanted your own back, it took a little longer. So a guy came into our store one time with a drive. He said, Computerland had this for almost 3 months, and they said it's not worth fixing. It's too far gone. It's a duo disc. So I took it, whatever, I switched it for the $60 fee, put it on the stack, and so when we start to run low, we go through and service all those drives in stock. And I usually leave the work order on top so I know what the problem was when it came in. And I took it, plugged it in. It's right. Didn't spin. So okay, maybe that's the railroad, the seized up motor or something. So I took it apart, changed the analog card, because it's the easiest thing to get out. No, didn't matter. Put the other analog card in another one. Nope, that worked just fine. Just okay, well, I gotta look at the bottom. So I took the drive apart, and as I'm reaching under to get under there, in the duo disc is a similar way. There's a few extra holes and things in here, so you can get under there from the top. Found a piece of milk bone dog biscuit. Jammed in the belt. I pulled it out, and that drive spun and worked just fine. Computerland couldn't fix it. They said it was too far gone. I don't think they even looked. Gave it back. I think the guy came in later, and I told him, I said, you know what was wrong with that? He laughed. What else are you going to do? I've been trying to figure out how to get in there all these years myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Analog card. The last piece. And I'll show you how to do the speed adjustment and alignment once we get this going. Metal cover back over the head. Okay. Another little piece of youth hoodlumism. Imagine this is all completely covered up. It's in the right box. Sometimes you just didn't want to do what they wanted you to do in school or whatever. You wanted to do something else. This computer's not working. Sure it is. No, really, it's not working. My discs won't read. Because I would go in here, through the front door, pop that off, and then say, see, look, it's not reading anything. And I can put it back on usually, too, if I wanted to later. Yeah, you do it by standing it up and letting it lid on the lid and pushing it in with a popsicle stick or whatever, but I'd get the screwdriver and take it out. But I can't remember the exact reasoning why I did stuff like that. But you don't know why you do half of what you do. That's why. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I centered this motor thereabouts, so let's see what happens here. Okay, we're pretty much together. I have got 4 screws left, which I know go to the bottom. Got 4 other screws that hold the bottom plate on. Got a clip that keeps people from pulling the cable out the back. This will be a little harder to do. It's got this big toroid thing on it. All right. And I have some discs here, so let's see what we've got. See what we accomplished here. It turns on and spins. Didn't smoke. We didn't hear any cool noises. Ah, it's trying. Okay. It's obviously not quite aligned. Okay, but that works, almost. so. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Put the disc in another slot. Another working drive as a reference, just so I can boot that. Actually, let's do something else interesting first. Forget that. I'm going to put my drive as number 2. This system. I'll show you another goofy trick. Security by obscurity. You want someone to not be able to read your discs? Misalign your drive. And copy stuff to it. Okay, so if we load that up, I'm just going to make a copy of that onto this. Let's see what we get here. Default 1 to 2. No errors. We'll find out here at the end here if it actually gets to the last track. And it should, because we're only using 35 out of 40. Okay, so now I have copied a disk to that sort of misaligned drive. I'm going to do another one. I want to copy the system master. Really should have made one that said track 0 was where 35 was, and 35 was where 0 was. Make a backwards drive. Okay. Now if I switch these around, our misaligned drive is going to boot its misaligned disks. Maybe not. Where's your Bill Gates moment? That's all right. All right. Oh, it's spinning. Okay, that could be an interesting side effect. We'll get to the bottom of that. Now we have a formatting a disk, and a little silly trick. We don't need that first space. Formatting a disk in the good mode. Okay. So I'm going to get a blank one. That's correct. So that we can stick this over here. keep setting, it's going right back to where it started. By taking this, slightly moving it one direction or the other. Should come into a line. Just gonna make a fool out of me. This was all fun anyway.
So what are you adjusting right now?
We're adjusting the head alignment. And it's way off now. Now I'm going the other direction.
That may have been,
Not gonna be right here. No, it's one I just formatted here.
oh, okay.
Oh. I don't think we have a speed problem at all. Because it actually did try to work. I think I did probably run to do this. Huh? It worked in rehearsal, yes. Back to there. Let's just check something. Let me see this. This is the speed adjustments. These are fluorescent lights.
Question is, they put high efficiency, high frequency balance.
That's, yes.
You're getting a lot of ambient light from the outside as well.
Usually,
I think I've got a strobe light on my phone. He said it's 60 hertz.
maybe.
Let's find out. Stadium full house, what's your price?
I'm not drinking first. All right, I'll laugh. Solid. Simply not gonna work. Locksmiths. Pick the ones, pick the time to mess with. Oh. See you for your next session. You can It's so weird. It was working. Darn 390s. I'm using a 400. All right. No, that's good. That's really curious. All right. Design is what's laughing at me.
Feel free to ask for help, I'm sure.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions on any of this? I'm probably going to give you bad advice now.
So you were talking about adjusting the timing, and someone said, and you said 60 hertz.
Yeah.
And it's almost like an old turntable where you have the
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. The bottom of this has the stripes on the wheel, and there's actually 50 and 60 hertz. So you'd adjust that to where you don't see the single line moving. Sometimes you gotta blink at it to see one.
And you can use a typical fluorescent light. 60
No,
seconds.
it's just the fact that the first thing you see.
Unless they've got the high persistence phosphorus.
So it will look like standing still then?
Correct.
Yeah.
It'll look like it's standing still. Huh? Oh, the metal cover. I don't think this. Half of these don't have this in here. Here. Said half of them don't even have it. Correct.
30 is the TV standard.
No, it's 30 actually. I was talking about last time. So I'm quoting myself. Yes, I think that's all.
Next time, do two at once. They're doing more sites.
Finder is real. It's not being a finder, it's being a search. So
Ah, well.
we can start it. So finder, rename the start.
Could have done a 3.5-inch drive.
So finder.
If anybody would like to see a 3.5-inch drive, I'll actually do one later.
So that's why it's a finder. It's not like it's
I'm gonna call it on
so
that.
that's what's going on.
It is not gonna run.